I was scrolling my favorite social media the other day when I refreshed the page and a trailer for Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves pops up. I wonder what this is, I thought. Maybe I'll give it a watch.
And now, a fighter.
Dude, Twitter has been blowing up over this, with insane amounts of both positive and negative feedback. I mean, imagine how much it would have cost to get Ronaldo in this game. Must have been at least 350,000 bucks. I honestly don't really care much about him getting into the game, because I'm not going to buy it anyway, but I figure it's a good opportunity to talk about the frankly ridiculous amount of crossovers in games nowadays. Games have been around for ages, and there's been wee crossovers in the past, but it's never been as prevalent as it is now, or it was at least less obnoxious. Back in the day, you just had Ryu fighting the X-Men, and it was pretty sick. But now you get Nicki Minaj punching some dude into space in Call of Duty, and Fortnite is sort of the catalyst for all of this. And I think Fortnite does it pretty well. Since it's a cartoony battle royale, it gets a pass, but to put into perspective of how much this has overtaken the game,
It's The Rock!
they started by doing a cool little event in Season 4, and then added a Thanos gauntlet into the game, which was pretty fun.
I have to break your neck.
Then in Season 7, they got Marshmallow into the game and did this wee concert. The thing that made these good was that they were very scarce, but after this, they started adding 1 or 2 skins a season. Then it got to Chapter 2 and they just started getting silly. Entire seasons based on DC and Marvel. Rick and Morty.
I'm cranking 90s, Morty. I'm cranking fucking 90s.
But the stuff fits pretty well into Fortnite that it almost makes you forget that they're just trying to squeeze your money out of you by adding every franchise in history. So I'll let it slide. I mentioned Call of Duty earlier, and that's because their crossovers just don't really fit into the game as well as Fortnite's do. And by not fit in, I mean they sort of fit in vaguely. Unless you know the character, then it just feels a bit stupid. But they're funny as fuck, so they get a pass. Well, some of them are. There's the Turtles, Homelander, and my personal favourite, Twitch streamers. They added Nick Merckx and Dr. Eggman, but because of reasons, they were removed. So most of the COD collabs were decent, not terrible, but like, who actually cares about Snoop Dogg and Call of Duty? Overwatch has done a few crossovers recently, only in Overwatch 2 though, because they still had dignity when making the first one. Well, besides that one skin, they did a One Punch Man collab, which was kinda cool I guess. Doomfist got that decent skin, Soldier 76 got a bike, and Kiriko tripled Blizzard's profits during that month. They also did Diablo. I don't know, I didn't even know they did that, but to be fair, who cares about that? Who cares about Diablo? They keep doing Le Seraphim collabs, but I'm not allowed to talk about that without people being upset, so I'll just say, I support women. The Porsche collab though, that was stupid. I mean, just looking at it, you can tell it's kind of stupid. And there was also some discourse surrounding this crossover. You know, I think I'm noticing a pattern. Now obviously, it's not just games that get crossovers, so let's take a sniff at some other forms of media that also get collabs. And let's look at a recent example, and one that I actually care about, Sonic X DC. I don't even know if I'm allowed to put screenshots of these pages, but I'm going to do it anyway because, let's be honest, DC aren't going to strike me. So the comics, as of writing this, there's only one comic out, and it's pretty sick because nobody really feels out of place. The characters look like they'd be in these situations and look like they might hang out with each other, and they're also so itty bitty small. Why is he so tiny? I could kick him. Yeah, but it's pretty good. Then there's Godzilla versus King Kong. Not much to say about this, never watched it, but there's something kind of awesome about a big ape fighting a radioactive dinosaur guy, so obviously I can't just not include it. I was researching for this section of the video and got distracted by a groundbreaking discovery, and I somehow didn't know about it. Family Guy
What are you doing? Crack? What the f-
X The Simpson. I just sat watching this for 10 minutes like a child looking at YouTube shorts and forgot I was writing this script, so yeah, it's Peem.
Yeah, I'm looking for a friend. Last name Keybum, first name Lee.
Yeah, hang on, I'll check. Hey guys, do I got a leaky bum?
Ha! Here's a couple of full game crossovers that I think are quite cool. Not just sticking Vegeta in Fortnite and calling it a day, but actually having 2 franchises in the same game. This is one that's quite popular, I think. I wouldn't know, I've never touched it, but I've heard praises. Marvel vs. Capcom. Lots of people swear by these games, and from an outside perspective, I absolutely see the hype. Having guys like Spider-Man and Captain America fighting characters like Ryu, Mega Man, and fucking Phoenix Wright. Like, this might be where game crossovers peaked, is what I would say if there wasn't this one other small little game series that I'm quite fond of. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Dude, these games are so sick. Having 2 of gaming's biggest rivals, at least at the time, have a game series where they directly compete with each other, and it's sponsored by the real fucking Olympics. It doesn't get much better than that. And they weren't just stuck with ordinary Olympics, they also did the Winter Games. on my favourite console in the whole wide world, the Wii U. I wonder when they're making another entry. Surely they're due one by now. Yep, the Olympics cancelled their support of the series due to their rising interest in esports and NFTs. So how's that going for yous? Give me back my funny video game series, please. Now the main reason I wanted to make this video, yep, you've guessed it, the obligatory Guilty Gear mention. Strive is doing a crossover with Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and since the main fella just died, we got his beautiful wife Lucy instead. Of course, if you're in the FGC, you know that fighting game players love to complain. So you probably aren't surprised to hear that a lot of Strive players were disappointed when instead of their favourite racist caricature getting into the game, a woman with an actual personality got put in instead. This is a great example of a character that doesn't feel like they intrude on the rest of the experience, and I mean that as pretentiously as possible. Having a character whose whole world is structured around technology and cybernetic augmentation be put into a world where technology just does not exist, that's pretty good. There's a lot more thought put into this than what a lot of other companies do. Despite all the complaining, you could tell me she's a character from the actual game and I'd believe you if I didn't have that wee woman being turned into mush burned into my brain after watching the show. Now we come to the big issue with a lot of these crossovers, which I'm sure you've caught on to by now. The real people being added. I touched on it a bit earlier, but having real people always runs the risk of them doing some insane shit and getting your game in hot water. Like when Travis Scott dropped this banger. Yikes. And suddenly his Fortnite skin hasn't been seen in 5 years, or the Will Smith skin not having returned in 4.5 years. The real reason I made this video was because I learnt that people don't actually know what Ronaldo was running around doing in 2009, so when he was announced for Fatal Fury, there were a lot of people hyped, and then just as many people announcing that they weren't going to buy a game with a sexual deviant in it, and I get it. These collaborations are very rarely made with the consumer's enjoyment in mind. It's basically all done for advertising and money. Lots and lots of money. Me personally, I like stupid shit in games. If I get jumped by 4 Gokus in Fortnite, I'm not going to be mad because that's quite funny. Or if they add characters that could have pretty interesting interactions with the game's world, then that's fine with me. But where I draw the line, and I think most other people do as well, is when they put just random bums in the game like this dude, because they've clearly been paid bajillions of dollars. Like, nobody knows who this is. At that point, just make your own character. Fuck you. This shouldn't have taken 2 months to come out, but here we are. Subscribe and like if you enjoyed, and thank Sonic for making this come out, because I saw a tweet saying another Sonic X DC comic was releasing, and I knew I had to lock in and get this done before it was even more outdated. I'll have more time to work on videos for the next few months, so keep an eye out. Next video will be out whenever it's out, and I'll see you later.